Back in 1981, I had the American dream, the beautiful wife, the house in the suburbs, and a beautiful 6-year-old son. And one day I went to work, kissed my son goodbye, and never saw him again. In 2 weeks, I became the parent of a murdered child, and I'll always be the parent of a murdered child. I still have the heartache. I still have the rage. I waited years for justice. I know what it's like to be there waiting for some answers. And over those years, I learned how to do one thing really well, and that's how to catch these bastards and bring them back to justice. I become a manhunter. I'm out there looking for bad guys.
I didn't figure it out until when I was old enough. Some of the stuff, I guess, is like a blank out. Things like sex movies. I couldn't sleep no more. I was scared. I guess I'm afraid it's in my head. You know, it's nightmare to me. I couldn't handle it no more. I was 13 years old and I was in middle school. I wasn't kind of smart. I couldn't hardly speak some words and stuff like that because I was slow learning. One of my sisters just was a friend with him, Elby Hars. I really didn't know much about him. She met him at a theater, the drive-in theater that he had running. Sometimes they play like children movies. And the other one, they play the other kind of movies. Like sex movies and stuff. Then she brought him here, the house all of my sisters and brothers got raised in. He was sitting here talking to my mom and daddy and you know, just like a friend.
It never ceased to amaze me how cunning a sexual predator can be, how they can win the trust of their victim, win the trust of the victim's loved ones, and someone along the way doesn't realize that this is a serious, serious nightmare.
When I got to know him about a month, Elby took me and my sisters to his house. We were supposed to spend the night with him to get up the next morning to go clean houses out. We was in the front room. And him is in the back bedroom. He got up out of his bed and come in there. Elby put his hand over my mouth and pulled me to another room. I was scared. And he forced away with me. He didn't say nothing. He just threw me on the bed. Then he started raping me. And then he told me after he raped me, and if I say anything, he will kill my family. It was like 5, 6 more times. Every time is at his house. He told me when I was laying there that I'm his girlfriend and he be my boyfriend. I didn't know better. I didn't know what's good and what's bad, you know. So I was kind of happy I got a boyfriend. It went on for a while until I told the teachers what's going on at school.
Elby was an adult that paid her attention. This is sort of a process where they slowly seduce them. They slowly convince them that they love them. This takes place over time. Once we had Elby's name, we ran his criminal history. That becomes very much an aha moment. We find that he has a conviction for basically criminal sexual conduct with a child, with a minor. And it turns out it's his own daughter. She was 7 at the time that the event took place.
Elby Hars did only about 3 months for molesting his own 7-year-old daughter. I believe crimes against children should be 3 times the punishment for what they are for crimes against adults. I have always believed that. But this started the path of this guy and sent a message to him, I can get away with it. Time served, bull.
There was probable cause that Martha had been sexually molested by Elby. We decide we're going to arrest Elby, and we're going to arrest Elby when he picks her up from school. So we haul him off to jail. Eventually, we were asked if we would accept a plea. Got 10 years, I believe.
He did about 5 of that 10 years. So when he was paroled, the daughter, Terry, would have been 15 or 16 years old. We think that sometime in her late teens or early 20s is when she reunited with Elby. Terry had made the adult decision to go back and live with the same father who had molested her when she was 7.
She doesn't know any better. The only thing she was taught by her father, her protector, her champion, was a bizarre, perverted behavior. Can this woman ever have a normal life?
Terry just took my shirt off and started taking pictures.
When we work sex crimes, you see a lot of unusual things. He's a monster. We don't know exactly when they reunited, but we know that Terry Hars decided to go back and live with her natural father, Elby. The Hars were a truck driving tandem, father and daughter truck driving team. They worked for a truck driving company and literally drove around the United States making deliveries.
They traveled from here to California or anywhere up north on a constant basis. It was a really big truck.
You have a father and daughter working and living together. He has a history of molesting her. It was right in line with the bizarre nature of the entire case.
I met her and her dad when I was about 12. We was at the store with my mom. We had ran into them, they were talking, and realized that they lived right down the road from us. They actually had, after talking to my mom, they'd give me $10 for my birthday that day before we had left. And not long after that, they realized exactly how close that we did live close together. And then I started going down there after school She paid me $70 a week, $10 a day, to come down there and just straighten up a little bit. It wasn't ever really messy. And sometimes just whenever I got done, we'd sit around and just talk and keep her company. That's all I had was 4 brothers growing up, so to have her around was kind of fun to have a girl to go to the movies or go do her nails or go shopping. She seemed like she was kind of level-headed and sweet and just fun to hang out with at first. Elby started hanging out eventually a lot more. And then it got to where when he was going with us and he was going to the movies with us. He was going about everywhere with us after that. Me, Terry, and Elby went to Florida. Spent the whole day at Disney World with all the characters. Spent all day riding the rides, and we did a lot that week.
They had known her for 2 years, up into the time, 13, and then I guess they felt the time was right to pursue their goal, as sick as it was.
It's a process of seduction. It's the seduction of you're vulnerable, and I'm going to get you to participate in the worst things you can imagine. And I'm going to make you feel guilty about it, and I'm going to make you feel like you can't do anything about it, and you can't say anything about it.
We were sitting in the living room and just, hanging out watching TV, and then Elby had changed it to a movie, to a porn movie. And I started feeling uncomfortable, and then that's when they had both come towards me. And Terry had said, well, come to the bedroom so I can show you something. And then I went back down the hall, and that's when it all started. At first she had me sit on the bed, and she's just like, well, we just want to take some pictures of you. And it was just regular, just pictures. And that's when she came over there to me. She said, well, we're going to take off your shirt. Didn't ask, didn't do, she just did. And just took my shirt off and started taking pictures. They had a Polaroid camera because they didn't want to use a regular camera, she said, to have it developed, and they would see the pictures there. So she always had a Polaroid. He was sitting there watching. He was saying, we do spend a lot of money on you. We, take you out. We do this. I guess he wanted his payment. I kind of wish that they would have never done anything for me. They would have never took me nowhere. I wish I never met them. That's when they had both approached me and took off my clothes and laid me on the bed and told me that that's what was going to happen. She sat beside me on the bed. Yeah, her hands were on me the whole time. Just kept telling me everything was going to be okay. And just lay there and not move. Well, he just did whatever he wanted. And she sat there and watched and just kept rubbing her hands all over me. And after they were done, they just got up and went to the living room, and she told me I could go get dressed.
Elby Hars is one of the most despicable fugitives I've ever gone after.
There had been multiple sexual encounters with Elby Hars. Some alone with Elby Hars, some in conjunction with Terry Hars. In other words, having sex literally with father and daughter.
The first time I seen them together, I knew it was wrong. I knew that a dad and a daughter should not be in the bed together. And sometimes they would actually lay in the bed and the two of them together would have sex. It was very disturbing.
Terry indicated that she'd kill if anybody tried to do anything to her or her father. She became a predator.
I was scared that before the police got to them that they would get to me. It had been about maybe a year and a half. Terry made a comment about she thought that I was pregnant and told me that if I was, then me, her, and her dad they'd take me and we'd go to Florida and have the baby and they'd raise it. And it kind of scared me, the way that she had said it. So that's when I went to my mom and I told her. She was a mom. She let me know that she was there for me, and she did. She stuck by me the whole time.
Whatever horrible, devious plan they had for Tracie, thank God she had the courage to go to her mother and say, I'm in a world of trouble, I need help.
She took me to the hospital, and they came in the room and said that I was pregnant. I cried. I was scared, and that's when me and my mom both said that we would get in contact with an adoption agency.
When the mother of the 13-year-old had made this report, we secured a search warrant for their residence, for the Hars residence. The Hars were not present. We later learned they were on a truck driving trip at the time. We found the pornographic videos. We found a number of them. The scenes that the 13-year-old had described were there, exactly in the way they described them. We found a number of sex toys. By that time, we had decided to go ahead and secure arrest warrants. We had their cellular phone number, and I actually spoke to both Terry and Elby on the phone. We were assured that they'd be back in town in a day or so. And then ultimately we got the call from the attorney that he'd be turning both of them in. We actually went to the lobby expecting to see both of them there. And it was clear what was taking place when just Terry was there. It was clear that Elby was on the run.
Terry knew that she'd get out of jail.
Terry Hars had no prior record. Elby understood, having done a 10-year sentence, I'm sure he understood that if he got convicted of these charges, he may not get out.
In a lot of ways, I felt very angry with Terry. A lot of ways. Because I felt that she already been through it. She already seen how it felt. She already knew how it felt to be done that way. And then why make it or help it happen to another little girl?
Terry was a victim. When she was 7 years old. And we know from working these cases, we know from experience, that oftentimes these people that molest children were victims of molestation. And obviously it played itself out in just that fashion with regard to Terry. She became a predator. It was a week-long trial, and Terry was convicted of all charges. And she received a 10-year sentence, which is the same sentence her father had received in 1986. I went to talk to her specifically about the whereabouts of her father. I'll never forget it. She hissed at me. She made a noise, like a scene out of The Exorcist. What caused him to be that way, I have no answer for that. I have no answer for any of them as to what causes them to be that way. But he's a monster.
He needs to be behind bars, away from away from any other kids. That seemed like that's all he wants.
I feel very certain there are other victims, especially with the nature of their long-distance travel across this country.
To me, I wish he was dead, where he quit hurting these kids out here.
If you can put your own hands on your own child, then there's no child off limits to you.
Elby Jesse Hars has scars on both of his arms. He has deep ties to Northeast Florida. He may have gone to Mexico after he fled authorities in April 2000, and he could still be there today. If you've seen Elby Hars or have any information as to his whereabouts, please go online at cnn.com/thehunt. We'll pass your tip on to the proper authorities, and if requested, will not reveal your name.
He was waiting for her.
He was hiding in the woods. He's a hunter, and he was an expert shot.
My sister wasn't scared of him, like everybody else was.
It's about 35 miles out of New York City, in a rural area, was where my family originated from.
The property's been in the family for 125 years.
The Harrimans bought the land, took the land, flooded it, made a lake, and pushed my family down the hill. That is now Harriman State Park.
The Palmer family grew up pretty much in the woods. Their property and house butted up against Harriman State Park, and they know the woods like the back of their hands.
There's a graveyard there. My entire family is buried there.
My father would always go into the park, walk, hunt, do whatever he did.
It was sacred to him. It was home.
Gene was a real good hunter.
Turkey season, you go turkey hunting. Deer season, you go deer hunting. Shoot squirrels, birds, everything.
There was a little problem. You can't hunt on state property. And that was New York State property, old Harriman State Park. In the 80s, Eugene Palmer threatened the life of a law enforcement officer. It was based on him hunting illegally in Harriman State Park. A lot of people were scared of him. A lot of people were frightened of him.
If anybody went up his driveway, he'd come out with a shotgun.
That's how he was. He's old school. If you pissed him off, he told you straight up how he felt.
It's part of the American myth, and people think of it as predominantly in the West, a healthy suspicion of law and government and authorities and how they regulate the land. But it happens all over America, and it happened right here in upstate New York.
Denise Pannireello is my ex-girlfriend. Met her in the mid-'80s. We were together till the early '90s.
I went out on a date with him, and it lasted for 12 years.
I was 17 years old when Clarence and Denise got together. With that going on, I was around Tammy, her sister. So I started dating her. So it was 2 brothers, 2 sisters.
My sister loved him. They got married.
I wish I never met her. Because then I never would have fell in love with her. And I never would have married her. And she never would have been here.
A lot of stuff started happening between my sister and John.
My wife had a boyfriend, and I had a girlfriend. And we kept our private relationships out of our own house. We basically tried to live as friends for the children.
They've been involved in domestic disputes in the past. As a patrol officer, I've responded there.
They were abusive to each other at the end, physically.
No, I never hit her.
An order of protection was granted to Tammy against John. And John had to stay away from the property.
My father, Eugene Palmer, owned the land that my brother's house is on in an adjoining piece.
Eugene had a house in the back. John and Tammy and the kids had a house in the front. So John could not come onto the property at all without breaking that order of protection and being arrested, which happened.
My father's sitting back looking at all this. It was, how can you put it, not right to him.
If his son can't live on the property, why should she be there? Disrespecting him.
It was almost like a tit for tat kind of a thing, I think, going on.
Eugene, which this was illegal, turned the lights off on them. They had like the electric connected from each house, and he turned the lights off on my sister and the kids.
She would come up the driveway and blow the horn to wake him up. She would yell out the window. She would flip him the bird all the time.
It's a bad situation.
He just didn't like her. He didn't like her.
Everything annoyed this man. The dog would bark, it would annoy him. If my daughter threw out the garbage 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, it would bother him. Everything bothered this man.
He was going on broken sleep. He'd call me up. She kept me up again and again and again. I'm getting tired of it. The fights over the property with her. He just came to, how far can you push a guy? Tammy was going to sue him for the land after the restraining order. She says, he's out, I'm getting a divorce, this is mine, and get off my property. She had balls.
My sister wasn't scared of him, like everybody else was. She stood up to him. He didn't like that.
She wouldn't leave her house. She says that is her house. She says once she moves out of her house, he would put a lock on it. She would never be able to get back.
I know she should have left. I wish she did leave. I'd still have my father. And the kids would still have a mother.
The trail of blood led to the doorway, then led around to the backyard.
She was never nothing but a squatter there, basically. You can't make new land. This land is ours. It's for our family. Simple.
On the 20th, there was a dispute between Tammy and Eugene on the property.
She was outside. He came down. I think he mentioned to her, when are you going to pack your clothes to leave, or something like that. And she says, I'm not. And he had this little gun that he had.
I know for a fact that my father didn't even own a handgun.
She saw the gun. He went to punch her in the face. And she picked up a log to defend herself.
He called the HAVERSTRAW police. Said that she assaulted me. I want her off my property, get her out of here. She hit me with a stick.
It takes a few days for a warrant to be signed by a judge and come back to our office and be valid.
No more. 911, where's your emergency? I heard a shot, a lot of screaming, another shot, no more screaming, and another shot. Okay, 3 shots. Where'd it come from? But I think it came from the Palmer's.
We were there probably within 5 minutes, 6 minutes, not even. There was blood drops. We didn't know what we were looking for.
About 8 o'clock, I got a phone call from Eugene's sister saying, Denise, you have to come up here. I'm like, for what? I need to get to work. My son's getting ready for school. What's the problem? And she said, something happened to Tammy. My dad right away knew she was gone. They found her in the backyard. I can't imagine. She was probably so scared.
He was waiting for her.
Eugene was hiding in the woods. Tammy had dropped her youngest child off at the bus stop.
He ambushed her as she came up the driveway. The first shot, he shot her arm in half. Her arm was from the... from the report that we received.
It was almost like hunting a deer. She tried to run away from her father-in-law.
She ran to the front door. She couldn't get in because there was blood all over the door. She ran to the side door. Blood all over the side door. She tried to run to the back, from what I understand. He fired another shot at her. He missed.
She ran around to the backyard where she collapsed. And Eugene stood over her and shot her.
She died all by herself.
2 children were left without their mother. Is this the way you solve a problem? Is this the way you get someone off your land? Is this the way you get your son's house back? By allegedly killing your daughter-in-law?
Eugene drove across the street to his sister's house, gave her money to pay the taxes, said, pay the taxes, the property taxes, give me an hour to get away before you call the police.
You've been a great family. I love yous all. He seen the cop cars. Said, I gotta go. I went up the hill right past our house.
If we had gotten a phone call right away from anybody saying, listen, my uncle left in his green car, he just told us that he killed Tammy and he went westbound up on Willow Grove Road, we would have had him.
That was the last time anybody seen him. There was helicopters up at that time. There was cop cars everywhere. They had the news cameras there at the time.
Tonight, police are on the hunt for this man.
And my aunt told him right on live TV that he confessed to the crime.
He said I shot and killed Tammy. I had enough.
I shot that bitch. I believe that's exactly the wordage that was used, which is basically a confession to her.
Once I knew that my wife had been shot, I assumed that my father did it.
We knew who we were looking for. We knew who killed Tammy. It's not a whodunit. It's a where is he?
He's in that park. 100%.
He wasn't going to jail for nobody.
After Eugene murdered my sister, he went down to his sister's house.
And then he got back into his truck and drove up Willow Grove Road.
Up the hill is the woods. It's the park.
Haverman State Park is 47,000 acres of woods, trails, reservoirs, like nature.
We went into the park looking to get him out because my aunt said he went up the hill. And as the police were doing their homicide investigation, we started walking through the park looking for him, trying to get a visual on him.
Clarence had said that he would come out if he heard Clarence's voice.
I was leading the way for the police. They didn't know where they were going, what they were looking for. So I brought him with me.
They were pretty much asking us for help because me and Clarence knows the mountains very well up in there.
We had to follow all leads, and actually they were a lead. They provided us with some kind of a lead, whether it was true or not, whether it was accurate. That's what we had so far.
The only resource the police have is the alleged murderer's relatives to direct them to where he might have run to. It's a recipe for disaster.
A day later, we found the truck, a quarter mile from the house. A bloodhound tracked the trail from the abandoned truck to a Beaver Pond campsite. One of the roadways in a campground, the bloodhound stopped and gave the sign that the trail ends right here, in the middle of a roadway. He stopped at that area and left from that area. I think a vehicle was waiting.
The police come to the conclusion that he got picked up by somebody there. He didn't get picked up by anybody. Nobody would hide him. I think that the dogs were just confused. If they crossed the road, they probably would have picked up his scent, but they figured that the smell stops here. Where'd he go?
You don't know for sure. The bloodhound lost the trail on a roadway, which makes you think there was a vehicle involved, but we didn't have that vehicle. We didn't have a person. We still had to check the woods.
They thought he planned this and went in there and running around like Rambo, you know? That wasn't it. He left with the clothes on his back, is what he left, and a pair of slippers. He didn't even have shoes on.
Eugene was 73 at the time of the incident. He suffered from diabetes and some heart problems. Certain doctors that we spoke to said that this is not that bad, looked at his medical records.
This man was in great shape for his age.
It's just totally untrue. He's in that park dead.
Clarence sent the cops on a wild goose chase. They said he's in the park. He's very sick. He didn't survive.
They thought that he was going this way and I was taking him that way. And I wasn't. And he went into a diabetic coma, I believe. And he died. I think it was like the 5th day they brought in cadaver dogs.
Cadaver dogs search for rotting flesh, human flesh. And we searched acres and acres and acres of property in Hammer State Park, anywhere where he would be.
And he said, oh, we did the whole park. He's not here, you're lying. No, they only did one section that they thought he might be in.
We just can't search the entire Hammer State Park. Where else will we go? Where else? We don't know where else.
If Eugene Palmer is still out there, he needs to be caught and held accountable. If his remains are out in those woods, we need to know that too. He bragged and boasted about what a great hunter he was. Well, now the hunt for Eugene starts again.